Station, WTIM.
It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper, your host. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. You'll find the streams on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook or on YouTube at WTIM TV. University of Illinois Extension horticulture educator Andrew Hulsinger in studio right now. Welcome back, Andrew.
Hey, good to be here.
It's great to have you back here. I wanted to start with some of the events that you have coming up in Christian County over the next few weeks throughout March. What do you have coming up in the next 2 weeks or so?
Well, I have Eat What You Grow, which is container vegetable gardening or putting vegetables out in your landscape. So it's been a fun program to do. It's going to be on March 16th from 1 to 2. And people like to have fresh produce, and it's, just great to have that right from your own backyard.
Right. And Eat What You Grow, I would imagine in March, you are kind of preparing for the growing season with that seminar, with that program.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And with eating what you grow, I mean, are we talking like lettuce here? Are we talking fruits? What are we kind of talking here?
You can do either or.
Yeah.
You can have containerized fruits. There's a lot of blueberry and other kind of fruits that are containerized these days, and you can definitely do lettuce in a container and have kind of a substantial crop.
What kind of container are we talking here? Like, are we talking like a tub? Go ahead.
I've seen everything from plastic tote kind of containers. I've seen ceramic containers. Any kind of container really will work. The main thing is having proper drainage. So look for a drainage hole or create a drainage hole when it comes to growing plants in containers.
I guess what is the big advantage for doing that compared to planting something like lettuce out in your garden outside? As compared to the container, right? Into the ground is what I mean.
Right.
Compared to
field grown compared to container grown.
Yes, thank you.
Well, your soil is ideal whenever you're growing in a container because you've put the soil into the container, and you know that if you go to get a potting mix, usually they're sterile, weed-free, makes it a lot easier to combat some of those challenges. It also puts it where you want it to be, so you don't have to go out to the garden. You can have it on your own back porch. So there are even containers that can hang over your railing on a fence, maybe on your deck. You could have some smaller sized tomato or pepper plants, and that makes it you also got to think about the volume of the soil, though. You need to have enough soil to provide for the crop that you're growing.
I see. And that's all the kind of stuff you'll learn for the Eat What You Grow event. Registration information at, I'd imagine, extension.illinois.edu/CJMM.
That's correct.
All right. Hey, look at that. I'm learning. I also noticed you have an event coming up from 2 to 3 p.m. March 23rd at the Christian County Extension Office, Tropical Plants for the Home Patio. Andrew, I want to know what makes Central Illinois a good fit for some of these tropical plants.
Heat and humidity during the summer. We definitely have it here in Central Illinois. So they're also pretty decorative. So you can have some decorative plants that you could put maybe by your pool or have in your landscape. A lot of them do well containerized. And there's a wide variety that I'll cover during the workshop and get you started in maybe some of your selection for growing tropical plants.
What are some of the go-tos that you often see for tropical plants here in Central Illinois?
I see a lot of elephant ears. People also like in some instances, the banana trees. They can do well here.
Like actual growing bananas?
Well, it's more the foliage. We don't have enough. We don't have a long enough season to. I have seen fruit on banana trees, but they're not very.
They're little guys.
Not the bananas that you think from the grocery store.
Gotcha. I would have never expected to see a banana tree in Central Illinois, but that also makes sense that when they do blossom into fruit, that they're just little guys that aren't what you think of. I guess when you think of tropical plants, is there anything else that you'd like to highlight without giving too much of your program away March 23rd?
Oh, I just think that it's a nice thing to have. A lot of people may want to hold on to their plants, and so some of these tropical plants can be overwintered if you have a container. They also can be, the storage corm, if you will, can be saved from one year to the next and provide continuous growing for the next year.
You also have a few other events outside of Christian County as part of, Christian, Jersey, Macoupin, Montgomery. And I think I did that in the right order too. See, I'm so proud of myself. I'm patting myself on the back as I talk. Montgomery County, you have an event coming up March 9th. Tell me about it, Andrew.
It's Success with Seedlings. And so we are going to be talking about starting seedlings, mostly your vegetable seedlings. A lot of people have struggles sometimes and get disheartened whenever it comes to growing vegetables, getting those seeds started indoors. That buys you a window of opportunity. As you see, our weather fluctuates here in Illinois. And so you have times whenever you'll have it warm and then it won't be warm. And then you're like, well, if I would have put these plants out, they would have got hammered by the frost or the freeze. And so there are different vegetables that are tolerant of frost or freeze, but your warm season plants, they benefit by putting a transplant out in the ground so you have a head start in the amount of growth that you have, and you can get your harvest a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I have news for some folks who've put their seedlings out. There's going to be a cold snap somewhere between now and the actual start of spring. Guys, it is still winter, believe it or not, despite the 50, 60-degree days that we've had. So that's kind of one of the things you'll learn about when you go to the Success with Seedlings event, and how to make sure you avoid those cold snaps and also get a head start on them. And did I summarize that pretty well?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And people don't think about season extension, but that's another thing that you can do, is to offer some protection to the plants that you've put out, or plan for that to where you can extend the growing season a little bit longer.
Also, on your list of March events, the raised bed gardening, which I know you've had a couple of these. How have they gone?
They go pretty good.
Yeah, you've had a good turnout.
Yeah, not too bad.
What do you, obviously raised bed gardening, but I guess what's a big takeaway that people will learn about from 1 to 2 p.m. March 28th at the Macoupin County Extension Office?
Well, whenever it comes to raised bed gardening, some of the more popular options are the square foot gardening in a raised bed. And you can grow somewhat more intensively in a raised bed. And so I'll bring some of those points about of how many plants you should put in, and maybe your spacing, and accommodate an ample crop, but also try to avoid some of the disease issues that you can have by growing plants more closely together.
Interesting. I also understand that some folks opt for raised beds because of physical ailments, and it's just a little easier on them too. Don't have to bend down and be on your knees as much.
It really makes gardening a lot more convenient and easier for those that have maybe a physical ailment or challenge bending over.
Yeah. And all of these events you can go to in person. There's some of them available online too, Andrew.
They're all a hybrid option. So if you can't make it there to the particular location, you can tune in online and see the presentation.
How many of the participants, generally speaking, over the last few months have been in person versus online?
So it's about 10 to 20% in person and about 80% online.
Oh, wow. So you're getting a lot of that online stuff still, even into March. Maybe when the weather warms up, we'll get a little bit more in person, but it's good to see all the online participants either way. I want to talk to you a little bit about pruning your fruit trees, which you have an event coming up today from 2 to 3. Registration's already closed. So reminder that the Pruning Apples and More program with University of Illinois Extension horticulture educator Andrew Holsinger is 2 to 3 today at the Christian County Extension office in Taylorville. And we're going to talk a little bit about pruning your trees after this short time out. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark and People's Bank and Trust. They put people first. I'm here with University of Illinois Extension horticulture educator Andrew Holsinger, who is teaching a Pruning Apples and More program today from 2 to 3 p.m., March 2nd at the Christian County Extension office. Too late to register, so if you are looking to do that, well, listen in closely because Andrew will tell you some things that he will tell everybody else at that event from 2 to 3 today at the Christian County Extension office. Andrew, when it comes to pruning apples and more, what do people need to keep in mind? I understand the season is a little bit different depending on the tree for pruning.
It is a little bit different for fruit trees. You know, as we're trying to wake up this morning, got our coffee going, the plants are going to wake up as well. So you can see that in the springtime, the buds form and they start to bloom and blossom. Well, there's a phenology of when the tree is going to bloom. And when you prune a tree, it affects the hardiness or the dormancy of the tree. It wakes it up a little bit quicker whenever you do some pruning. And so when those trees come out of dormancy, they become susceptible to freezing temperatures. And so that's why, depending on the tree, apples are very hardy across the whole entire state of Illinois. And so you don't have as many concerns for apple, but things like peaches or apricots or those stone fruits that are more sensitive to the cold, they usually are delayed in their pruning. And so you wait and hold off. So you let Mother Nature take some of those blooms and blossoms off of the tree, and you don't have to do as much pruning, or you delay that so you don't take off so much, and then you don't have, you can't replace it once you take it off. So it's a good time to strategize on your pruning. It's the prime time here for pruning fruit trees. We prune fruit trees in a variety of fashions. Some are the central leader, where you have a main leader or trunk, and the others, like the stone fruits, typically are grown in an open vase. And so you have a small trunk, fairly short, and then you'll have scaffold branches. And so it looks like an upside down umbrella or a vase, if you will. And those main scaffold branches support the other limbs that are going to provide the fruit for your peaches.
Interesting. I guess when is a poor time, if there is one, to prune your fruit trees?
Well, there is some summer pruning that goes on. Some of the vigorous growth that happens, like water sprouts, you'll do some pruning and then it'll put up a more vertical kind of shoot. Well, those are sometimes pruned out during the summer, but the fall is the not great time to prune for basically a lot of our trees. Most trees are not pruned in the fall because, again, you stimulate growth whenever you prune, and then that would get damaged by the cold temperatures. That new succulent new growth isn't going to survive our winter. So you don't want to prune in the fall. You want to stop in the late summer for your pruning. So you just got to think about the culture of each tree that you're pruning. A lot of people may think about pruning some of your spring flowering trees and shrubs, but really you want to wait till after they bloom, and that way you get the most out of your floral display, and then you can prune those after that. Pruning does a lot of things for trees and shrubs. You always want to have a reason for pruning, and one of those can be to open up the canopy, remove limbs that may be rubbing. There's a lot of reasoning why you want to do your pruning, but definitely have a reason for doing it.
And I understand that this Pruning Apples and More event is happening, well, today. So is there a place where folks can go catch some of the information you teach them after the fact?
Some of these sessions have been recorded in the past, or there are on occasion webinars that I give that are recorded. We have a 4 seasons gardening webinar series, and those are all recorded. I just did one this past Tuesday on houseplants. So after that program's captioned and processed. It'll be posted, and people can check that out on YouTube.
And I'm sure you could find the YouTube and all the other information at extension.illinois.edu/CJMM.
Or you can, for the YouTube, go.illinois.edu/Hort videos will also take you there.
Awesome. Let's move on. In Hillsboro, there's a field day coming up. Tell me about it, Andrew.
Yeah, there's a regenerative grazing winter field days going to be held March 7th and 8th at the Hillsboro Extension Office. But both days are going to include on-farm examples and education at the nearby Hand Farm. So this is Bernie and Pam Hand have a farm that they grow organic crops and have cattle, and they're going to be highlighting their farm and give some of the maybe demonstrative practices for this regenerative grazing day. Again, that's Tuesday, March 7th, just next week. Starts at 8:30, and following on Wednesday, March 8th, starting at 9. Both days will conclude at 3:30. I believe lunch is provided for both days in the registration, so look for that on our website, and should be an enjoyable time. I've enjoyed my visits there whenever I've had a chance to visit the Hand Farm.
Andrew, we've got time for about one more question. So let me think here. What can I ask you? I guess when it comes to spring gardening, what is the number one thing to remember? What do you think? What's the most important thing?
Preparation and planning, and probably record keeping. So when did you plant what you planted? And when did you apply a pesticide? When did you do the different things in the garden? So that way you can go back and look and know some of those details. And some people just even forget to maybe label their flats whenever they're planting seeds, and you want to know what you planted there so you know what you're putting out in your garden. So it's a good idea to label with the plant name and the date, and when you've sowed those seeds. It's a good idea just to keep some good record keeping.
So Extension horticulture educator Andrew Hulsinger, thank you so much.
Okay, good.
WTIM.